Welcome back to CIA Declassified. Today we look at the slow motion weapon, the kind that doesn't explode but starves. In the height of the Cold War and recently uncovered in the declassified dumps of 2025, the US Army and the CIA realized that the most vulnerable part of the Soviet Union wasn't its bunkers, but its breadbasket. If you could kill the wheat, you could kill the will to fight. But they needed a sniper's precision and a biological plague. This was Project Packaged Famine. The brilliance and the horror of packaged famine was its selective activation. It was a biological landmine that only stepped on the enemy. Project Packaged Famine was a joint CIA and Army biological warfare program that focused on the development of wheat rust fungi. Specifically, and I'm going to try and name these three, I'll spell them out for you. Puccinia, Graminis, and Tritici, spelled Puccinia, Graminis, and Tritici. All right, got that? A quote from a declassified 2025 Department of Defense feasibility study: the objective is the creation of a dormant biological agent that remains inert until exposed to specific chemical catalyst prevalent in Soviet agricultural practices, end quote. Scientists engineered the fungi spores to be packaged in a polymer coating that would only dissolve when it came into contact with high nitrogen fertilizers manufactured in the USSR. The program utilized the Big Itch delivery system, originally designed for fleas, but adapted to drop microscopic fungal pellets from high-altitude balloons over the Ukraine. Research was conducted at Fort Detrick, Maryland, where different strains of rust were tested for their virulence decay to ensure the plague wouldn't blow back into Western Europe. The CIA maintained a database of soil profiles across the Eastern Bloc to ensure the fungi was tuned to the exact pH levels of the Russian steppe. A quote from a former Special Operations Officer, Anthony Reeder: "We weren't looking for a total extinction of crops. We were looking for a 30% yield drop, enough to cause breadlines, but not a global catastrophe," end quote. The packaging technology involved microencapsulation, the same process used in time-release cold medicine. Specialized CIA field teams disguised as agricultural tourists were trained to seed the edges of state-run farms with these dormant spores. The project investigated the aerostability of the spores to determine how long they could survive in the jet stream before losing potency. A 2025 declassified memo reveals that the agency successfully tested a rice blast variant intended for use in North Korea. A quote from a biological warfare analyst, Dr. Alice Vance: "Agricultural sabotage is the ultimate deniable weapon. Farmers blame the weather, the government blames the soil, and the agency just watches the caloric intake drop," end quote. Project Packaged Famine: researchers developed a counter-agent spray that could protect U.S. crops if the fungus ever accidentally crossed the Atlantic. The program tested fungal synergism, where two harmless fungi would combine in the soil to create a lethal third pathogen. The 2025 documents show that the project was officially mothballed in the late 1990s, but the seed vault of these pathogens remains under high security at an undisclosed location. The agency tracked Soviet grain imports using satellite imagery to measure the effectiveness of their natural crop failure rumors. The packaging pellets were designed to look identical to common dust particles, making them impossible to detect by visual inspection of grain elevators. The Army developed fungal drones, early uncrewed aerial vehicles designed to fly at crop level and release the spores directly into the stalks. Researchers utilized gamma irradiation to induce mutations in the rust to make it resistant to standard Soviet fungicides. A quote from a declassified 1982 intelligence summary. The disruption of the Soviet caloric baseline remains the most cost-effective method of internal destabilization, end quote. Project Packaged Famine served as the blueprint for Operation Ranch Hand during the Vietnam War, though the focus shifted from fungus to chemical defoliants. According to the Declassified 2025 logistics report, the project utilized ghost fleets of commercial cargo ships that would release spores into the ocean spray, allowing the wind to carry the infection hundreds of miles inland. A quote from a 1976 Bioweapons Advisory Panel. The beauty of the fungal vector is its persistence. Once the soil is inoculated, the threat remains active for multiple growing seasons, end quote. The agency investigated pollen mimicry, where the fungal spores were shaped to match the local flora's pollen, ensuring they would be naturally picked up and distributed by local bee populations. Detailed schematics in the 2025 dump show that the packaging included a secondary layer of time delay wax, allowing the spores to sit through a winter freeze before activating in the spring thaw. A quote from a declassified memo from the Office of Scientific Intelligence. By controlling the stomach of the enemy, we bypassed the need to engage his bayonets, end quote. While the rust is declassified, the 2025 release contains a section called Post-Consumption Manifestations that is almost entirely blacked out. The implications are chilling. Get ready for the theory of the genetic kill switch. Speculation suggests that Project Packaged Famine wasn't just for crops, but for the people who ate them, and the black redactions hide the human dormancy trigger where the fungus lives inside you until a specific radio signal is played. What if the rust fungi was alive in a different way? A dark rumor suggests the agency developed a sentient spore that could communicate with the CIA through the roots of plants, making every wheat field a massive surveillance array. Could the fungus be terraforming the earth? Speculation suggests the redactions in the FAMINE files hide evidence that the fungus is actually an invasive alien species the CIA is helping spread to prepare the planet for a new master. Listen to the mined wheat theory. Some claim the redactions hide a chemical added to the rust that makes those who consume the tainted bread incapable of feeling anger, effectively turning a starving population into submissive slaves. What if the fungus is singing? Speculation suggests the redactions hide acoustic spore control, where the agency can make the fungi grow or die by playing specific low-frequency hums from satellites. Brace for the clock stopper theory. It claims the redactions hide a variant of the fungus that prevents seeds from ever germinating again, and the CIA is holding the world's food supply hostage with a global sterility trigger. Could the soil be a computer? A wild rumor suggests the redactions hide the fungal internet, where the CIA uses the underground mycelium network to transmit binary data across borders. Some believe the redactions hide Project EGOT 2.0. Speculation posits the rust causes mass hallucinations of abundance, so people believe they are full even while they are starving to death. Beware the ancient grain theory. It claims the agency found this rust in an Antarctic tomb, and the redactions hide the fact that it's actually a de-aging serum that only works for the elite, while the waste is what we eat. Finally, some speculate that the black bars hide the Dust Bowl protocol. The theory is that the CIA can turn the entire Midwest into a desert in 48 hours if the wrong political party takes power. Peer into the energy drain theory. Whispers suggest the redactions hide a plan to make the fungus absorb all nutritional value from the wheat, leaving people with full bellies but bodies that are literally starving for nutrients. And the black bars hide the mortality rate from the invisible starvation. What if the bread is a remote control? Speculation suggests the redactions hide Project Sourdough, where the fungus alters human gut bacteria to make people crave only specific CIA-approved foods, and the black bars hide the names of the fast food chains that are also involved. Hold your breath for the prehistoric plague rumor. It claims the agency didn't engineer the rust, but revived it from a 50-million-year-old piece of amber, and the redactions hide the warning that the fungus is specifically designed to kill everything except dinosaurs. Could the wheat be watching you? Some people posit the redactions hide the chlorophyll eye, a method where the fungus turns the surface of the wheat leaves into photographic film that records everything happening in the field and beams it to a CIA satellite. Lastly, brace yourself for the rage grain theory. It claims the redactions hide a plan to switch the fungus with a variant that causes extreme aggression, turning an entire country's population into a violent mob at the push of a button. Was Project Packaged Famine a success? Technologically, it was a terrifying achievement. The ability to program a biological agent to respond to a specific chemical fertilizer is a masterclass in bioengineering. However, operationally, it was never fully unleashed. The risk of pathogen drift, where the rust might mutate to ignore the fertilizer trigger and eat everything in its path, was deemed too high for a planet with a shared atmosphere. It remains a doomsday device on a shelf. As far as the project Packaged Famine leaving operational and technological breakthroughs, that is something it definitely did, such as triggered encapsulation, the development of polymers that dissolve only in the presence of specific nitrates, high-altitude dispersal models, pioneering the mathematics of how microscopic particles travel on global wind currents, agricultural genetic fingerprinting, the ability to map the DNA of crops to create targeted plagues, and myco-warfare defense, the creation of the world's first broad-spectrum antifungal shields to protect national food reserves. Project Packaged Famine proves that the most dangerous weapon isn't the one that hits the city, it's the one that hits the plate. The next time you see a patch of rust on a stalk of wheat, remember, sometimes hunger is by design. Thanks for watching. Definitely tune in next time we examine Operation Woolsey. The Office of Research and Development wanted to turn the ocean's greatest predator into a remote-controlled assassin. We'll uncover the 1960s plan to use acoustic homing in sharks. We'll see how the CIA tried to implant electrodes directly into the brains of sharks so they could be steered via sound pulses towards enemy submarines. Join us next time for the Sharks of the Shadow. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.